What should I charge? This is the most common question we see on the Canada Fresh Flower Farmers Facebook page. And when you're starting out, it's absolutely daunting. We sell flowers in so many different ways to designers and florists. We do pick your own, weddings, markets, subscriptions. And it's really hard to know. Nobody can tell you what to charge, but I hope we've got a tool here that will help you at least figure out a starting place. My name is Teresa, and I work with a group called Open Food Network Canada. Open Food Network is a very robust e-commerce platform. We're open source, so we're a not-for-profit. And lately we've had funding from Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada to help grow the flower sector in Canada. And we call this the Open Flower Network. I work at Garden Party Flower Farm where I'm retiring. And as I retire from flower farming, I'm starting to do more and more with this Open Flower Network project. So the prices I'm going to share with you are from 7 online marketplaces that sold in 2024 on this e-commerce platform called Open Flower Network. And here are the marketplaces. We sometimes call them hubs or collectives. I'm not going to talk about how the hubs are organized because they're going to do that to you directly. And we'll have a workshop in March where they're going to share some of their challenges, etc. And so that would be interesting, especially if you're interested in selling through an online marketplace. But what I am going to do today is talk about some pricing. So I'm going to share a spreadsheet of prices with you, and I'm just going to first highlight a little bit about them and where they come from, just so that you understand. So they're pooled prices across these 7 hubs. So we aren't releasing pricing specifically to the hub in Ottawa, for example. If they want to share that with you, they can share that with you, but Open Food Network will not do that. We have harmonized the prices across the country. We also include in these prices the large cities and the small cities where the buyers are located. So some buyers are in Toronto, some buyers are in small towns in Grey Bruce, for example. So there's a harmonization that happens across all buyers in these hubs. Also, a harmonization across the sizes of farms. So some of the farmers supplying product in these hubs are very large farmers who only sell wholesale. Others are quite small, just starting out. And this is the first year that they have sold flowers wholesale, and they've only maybe sold a few $100s worth of flowers. So lots of variation in who the sellers are. It's for the 2024 season and only for the 2024 season. So will we do it on an annual basis? I can't tell you that yet. Right now we can do this because we have funding to do this. Will we be able to do it without that funding? That isn't so clear. It takes some time. So 2024 season, we're missing a few sales that were made with holiday wreaths at the end of the season because I took these prices at the end of November. But they were quite small, and they really don't apply to the cut flower pricing. They don't affect that. We've harmonized across various quantities and qualities. So quantities especially is important here. A farmer might sell a single stem. They might sell by a bunch. A bunch size might be 5 stems. It might be 10 stems. Or they might sell by a bucket. A bucket might have 30 stems or 60 stems. So they're all different sizes. What we did is we took all those different sizes and translated everything into a per stem cost so that we could kind of compare apples and apples, if you will. So everything has been moved into a per stem cost. And we didn't pay attention to quality. And the reason we didn't is because in these marketplaces, selling to designers, the quality of the stems is universally high. These are high quality stems, period. They're not seconds. Occasionally there might be stems that are a little shorter, have a few fewer blooms on them. But basically, these are high quality stems that we're talking about here. So quality doesn't affect the price that much. And as I mentioned, we're primarily selling to event designers, some bricks and mortar florists in there, but mostly event designers, and lots of data. So across all these hubs, when we merged everything, there were lots of data points. It leaves us with some fairly robust pricing. And so this then is what the pricing looks like. And this is available as a downloadable, and the link will be in the show notes below. So you can download this spreadsheet and you can sort it and play with it as you like. I have it here sorted based on total sales. The way this is here, total sales, the way this is organized is you can see there are 140 different products that we've pulled prices for. And there were more products than that. But once we got below that, the amount of the product that sold was very, 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 very small, like maybe only one bunch in one hub on 1 month or something. So we didn't include it. So we pulled 140 products. We grouped varieties within products. So all of the varieties of cosmos are all grouped in here. All of the varieties of peonies are grouped in here and so forth. Yes, variety makes a big difference in price. But for us to tease out every single variety, we just would result in a mediocre data compared to pooling them where we have much powerful information. So we did not do that. But what we did do is give you the average price, which is B, but we also gave you the minimum and the maximum prices for that stem so that you can kind of look at that and make some judgments for your own situation. And let me give you an example of where these minimums and maximums might make sense. So let's start with dahlias because dahlia is a fairly good price per stem at $2.67. But you see the minimum is down at 60 cents. The minimum dahlia stem was lower than the minimum zinnia stem. And you think, well, how could this be? Well, it could be because there are farmers in these marketplaces who have lots and lots of dahlias. Particularly, they might be stuck with a field of orange dahlias in the peak of dahlia season, and nobody wants orange dahlias. So they would sell them by the bucket or by the 2 bucket even, and they would lower the price per stem to do that. And so that's why you see that there. It's not poor quality. They could be top quality stems, but the variety or the volume is what's driving that price lower. What's driving that price up, you want to know, because don't you want to sell your dahlia stem for $12.80? I want to joke with you and say, go ahead and try. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't sell. I want you to think about this maximum column as an outlier. There is some very unusual situation that happened that drove the price of that particular flower up perhaps only once in the whole year, across all the marketplaces in just one place, right? And it's still the maximum price. Think of it as an outlier. For example, a dahlia selling at $12.80. Maybe this was a dahlia from a heated greenhouse in June when nobody else had them, and it happened to be a designer had an event that week, and it was the perfect color, and the buyer and the seller made a deal around the price, and it was high. So it's not to say you couldn't sell a dahlia at $12.80, but it's to say this chart does not tell you how many dahlias sold at $12.80. I'm telling you, not very many, because the average is way down here at $2.67. So take them with a grain of salt. I'm not saying you can't get that for your flower. I would never say that. I wish you could, but it's not likely. It's more likely, because this is the average, that this is the price someone's going to pay for the flower. The other thing about this isn't what the farmer took home and put in their pocket. This is what the designer paid. These marketplaces are not all the farmer selling direct to a designer. Like if you deliver to a designer or she picks up at your farm or you go to a flower shop with a bucket of flowers or something like that. Now you're making a direct contact and there's no one in the middle taking a portion of the sale. But in these marketplaces, there often is, because the marketplace itself has staff and has to pay for those people, right? Very important. So don't assume that all the farmers who sold zinnias online averaged out at 130 each. In fact, they probably got anywhere between 10 and 30% less than that for their stem. So these are flowers that were paid for at this price by a designer. The last column here is showing you the total sales of that stem. So $14,000 worth of cosmos sold. I have organized by this column for a reason, because I think it helps you figure out some opportunities. On one hand, you might say, well, why would I look down to stems there where they didn't sell very much and grow those? Because they didn't sell very much. That's true. But maybe they didn't sell very much because they weren't very plentiful. Nobody had them. They weren't available in sufficient quantities. So I think towards the bottom, column F gives you some ideas of what might be very good flowers to grow and sell in these marketplaces. Let me pick out a few. Columbine, only $640 worth of columbine sold. This is a pretty good stem price. Um, and the thing about that is, I know that that's low because when I sold online in these marketplaces, just my farm alone sold 3 times that in columbine. So I know there's a market for that out there. And the reason they're not showing up here is I think with some of these perennials, a lot of the farmers don't have their fields flushing yet. They're recently planted perennial fields. My perennial fields are old. They're recently planted, and so they're not generating like they will that much yet. So there's a real opportunity, I think, in some of the perennials that I think are undersupplied in these marketplaces. The other thing I want to make a comment about, I can't see lupins right now, but it's very low in terms of the amount it's sold, and it's a high selling flower, so it would be another perennial that is an opportunity. The other one I want to just point out and give you an explanation on, because it might jump out at you, peonies, 283 a stem. That would be pretty typical in my experience with these marketplaces for peony prices. But only just about $9,000 in peonies. You would think that peonies would contribute more. A pretty good value flower, readily available. There would not have been a shortage of peonies in these markets. So why didn't more peonies sell? And this is where I want to remind you, we're talking about one season, 2024. And at least throughout Ontario, and I'm not sure about Alberta, but in Ontario, spring came fast and furious, if you remember. Peony season was early and fast, and we just didn't have time to sell them. They were here and then they were gone. So I think that's why peonies are low. So that's why I gave you these caveats at the beginning. All those things affect this price. And so you really want to work with these prices and think about your own situation. So now you're going to say, well, okay, but what if I don't sell wholesale? What do these prices mean for me? Well, there's a way you can work with them, and I'm just going to go through some of those examples. So let's say you sell market bunches, either at the roadside, at a farmer's market, subscription, whatever. The first thing you want to do is figure out what the cost of the flowers is in that bunch. So work out your recipe, go to the spreadsheet, take the average cost, and come up with a total. So I did that for this market bunch, $17.55. So then the question is, well, do I sell it for that? No, you don't sell it for that, because this, in a way, you can think of this as, what if I was buying the flowers from myself? And this is what they would come to. So you need to make a little bit of money. So you want to add some kind of a multiplication factor to that. And how to know which? Well, therein is the magic question. And I can't tell you that. I'm offering some suggestions, and I bet other people watching this will have completely different suggestions, and that's completely fine. I just want you to get started somewhere. I don't want you to take my word as some kind of flower farmer gospel. You've got to look at this and think of your own situation. So if you're in an area where there are a lot of roadside stands, this is like me, and your stem cost is here, you might only look at a 1.5 markup to get 26.33. In my bouquet bar, for example, I sell bouquets at $25. It's an easy number. People pay cash. It's great. So that's what I do. But if I was in a more competitive area where prices tended to be higher, a larger city perhaps, or I was at a pop-up in maybe an unusual situation, like one of the cities that have flower markets, for example, I would probably be looking at a 2 times markup on the very same flowers. So work out the price of your recipe and then figure out where your markup should be and then do a reality check. Go look at other flowers. Go buy a bouquet for yourself. Buy several bouquets at different farmers markets, at different flower stands. Go see what other people have to offer. Not only does it tell you about the pricing, but it helps you peg your quality against someone else's quality. My husband went insane one year because I bought in Lysianthus, and he's like, "Well, this Lysianthus is all in the field, and you're buying." Yes, I had to know what it looked like. I had to know what the wholesaler's Lysianthus looked like in order for me to figure out what my quality was. You've got to peg yourself. And so go buy some flowers. That's the way to do that. Okay, so let's say you're doing something like pick your own. This is pretty tough to get an idea of. You have to do a bit of guessing here. So I went out there and I said, you know, canning jar. I'm selling about a canning jar. 18 stems or so fit in a canning jar, more or less. It's early summer. What's blooming? What are people going to put in the jar? And this is what I said. Let's say people put this in their jar. And so the cost of that jar, the cost of the flowers came in at just over $20. That tells me there's no way I'm going to charge $20 for the pick your own canning jar. Why? Because I'm offering an experience. I'm not offering design. I'm not designing this bunch for them, but they are paying for the experience and I'm doing things to offer that experience. I'm providing everything from parking to a washroom. I've got a field full of flowers that's blooming between, May and October. Um, so depending on what experience you're able to offer, that's how you decide what factor to multiply by in a pick your own situation. If you have a small plot, it's just annuals, it's 8 weeks of the year, I would say you're probably down at a 1.5 markup as your experience level. But if you have a big farm and you're offering lots of things, and maybe there's not only annuals and perennials and woodies available all season long, but you also have washrooms, maybe you sell refreshments, maybe you do some kind of a demonstration or a tour, offer design tips, all those things are worth more. And so you could be 2 times the experience, 2 times in the experience factor, or even higher, for example. And again, do the reality check. Go to some other pick your own farms or at least visit their websites, figure out what they have compared to you and what they charge compared to you. Okay, what about weddings? So, weddings, of course, a lot more flowers in a wedding bouquet. And I'm just looking at a bouquet, but this would apply to other pieces as well. You're working out the stem cost. Go to that chart, go to that spreadsheet, figure out how many of what things you need and put them in there. And from there, the big question, of course, is what should the design factor be? Well, I call this a once in a lifetime factor because with wedding designs, and I would say memorials often come in this category as well, you're really talking about something that just happens once. At least with weddings, people assume it's going to just happen once. In my case, it just happened once. But this is a special event. Weddings, especially, they kind of break the economic rules, right? People who can't really afford other things will be no holds barred to buy flowers that they want for the wedding. So often weddings and events start at a 2 times factor and work up from there. And how do you decide where you are? This is really about experience, reputation. And you probably don't start at a 4 times. You probably start around a 2 times. And maybe in time, once you've got that waiting list built up, you know that you can go to higher factors. So these are just some ways to get you started with pricing. Again, not carved in stone, but just ways to get you started and how to work with that Excel spreadsheet of prices. I just want to conclude by pointing out that we're um, the Open Flower Network on OFN. And I want to highlight that there are more resources coming. We have a new webpage with new resources here. And also we've started adding things to our calendar. So there's a couple of things coming up. On January 19th, we're going to do this cross-country flower check-in where several flower farmers are going to talk about the channels they sell in and the opportunities and challenges with that. And on January 26th, we're going to do a follow-up to this pricing session with hubs talking about some of the nuance about the quality of flowers selling to designers and florists. And more events are coming in February and March. And you can submit an event. So as we go into the season, if you're planning events for other flower farmers, I'm not talking here about sales events on your farm, but if you're talking about events for other flower farmers, you're going to do something, please submit it here. We'll put it up on our calendar. And it'd be nice if this became kind of a go-to place that people can look for events here. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do promotion too. Of course you should, but you might as well leverage this. And if you're not on our map, go to the map and put yourself on. It's free, and we're running maps across the country. If your province isn't here yet, it's just because we don't have a critical mass of listings yet. So list yourself under Canada, and then we will build out the province specific map from that as we need to. And when you get on a map, basically what happens here is your pin can be clicked and you can see a little thing about your farm and contact information and so forth. And so you can kind of see who's around you. And this is a very helpful thing when we talk about comparing yourself to other flower farmers, checking out what prices other people charge. This tells you who to look for. And so it can be helpful to do that. Finally, if you haven't read our gap analysis report from the survey we did last year, it's still here. Sign up for our newsletter so that you can stay informed. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. And last but not least, if you need to contact me, again, I'm Teresa with Garden Party Flower Farm and Open Food Network. This is where you reach me. I share this email with Carla, who offers most of the Open Food Network support to food farms, and I handle the flower farms. So I'm the person who you will reach when you send me an email there. And I would very much like to hear from you if you're interested in selling on the network, or if you want to know more about what it takes to set up a flower hub. I'm happy to do demos with you or set up webinars to answer your questions. So thanks so much. It was really nice to chat with you today, and I look forward to talking to you more.